Well, good morning. Welcome to the cabin. My name is Tom. I come to you from Northern Maine, the Rustic log cabin. I'm hugging the wood stove this morning. It was 5 below zero. There was 20 degrees in this cabin. Now it is 63. I want to talk about the cabin. I hear a lot of people in the comments and people that email me getting ready to build a cabin, thinking about building a cabin, working on a cabin. That's great. I love all that. And you people that are sending me pictures, I love that too. I love seeing what other people are doing with their cabins. I'm following them, even though you guys don't have a channel. I am following them and wishing you all the luck in the world to be able to accomplish your dream and just get it off the ground. Because it's not an easy thing. Unless you got a ton of money you can throw at it, it's not an easy thing. This lifestyle that I have been working on my entire life. It's a labor of love, I guess. But I'm going to look back on my life and know that I lived it the way I wanted to live it. But what I'm talking about here today is, so you want to have a cabin and all of that is, and we're going to talk about skills and skill set. You don't have to have a lot of skill sets when you start out because you're going to learn. I mean, that's just the nature of it. I mean, you're either going to learn or you're going to fail. Well, because I want you to succeed, I'm going to get a couple of shortcuts in here for you. There's a saying that I hear a lot from people, not here, and not in like where I was raised. I was raised in a small town in Maine, and that's why I can do the things that I can do today. And the saying is I got a guy for that. I got a guy for that. Well, you got to get away from that. I've got a guy for that. Or what do I mean by that? Because up here, if you get into your cabin and you get into this kind of a lifestyle, there isn't that guy. You're that guy. So you got to get out of that mentality of I got a guy for that. What I mean by that is I got a guy for that for cleaning the chimney. I got a guy for that for fixing my door. I got a guy from that for fixing my snowmobile or my outboard. Or I got a guy, and granted, I when I get into projects that are beyond my knowledge, then I go to the snowmobile shop, or I go to the small engine shop. I mean, you got to have the basics. You can take care of yourself. You can change a plug. You can change a belt. You can do an oil change. You can learn the basics. And it's no different with the cabin or building your cabin dream. You don't have to know how to build a cabin to build a cabin. You just got to start. Get yourself some books, follow some YouTube videos, do anything, ask some questions, talk to people, and then start. Because the way it is with me anyways, once I start a project, then I start figuring it out. Well, it's the same thing here. So by having that mentality, if I've got a guy for that, you never step over the edge and take a risk and try it yourself. And by trying it yourself, you automatically learn. And there's so much information out there nowadays compared to when I started. It's all at your fingertips now. And when I started, that didn't exist. I'm talking 30 years ago. The stuff that we play with nowadays wasn't even a thought in most people's minds. So, but that's when you own a cabin or you're getting ready to build a cabin, there are a lot of projects that you're going to need to overcome. Especially right out of the gate. So by learning some skills as you go, or even before you start your cabin, or just outdoor skills in general, you're going to need to know that stuff ahead of time. And I'm not talking a lot of the crap stuff that you see on YouTube as far as bushcraft skills and stuff like that. I got some bushcraft videos, and a lot of times I disagree with a lot of the other bushcraft videos that are out there. Number one, you know, it's so much more than what these videos are putting out there. It's just not gonna, it's not reality. I was talking to a fella yesterday. I had a friend of mine down for coffee, and a group of young people came in. This is big country up here. A group of young people came in. He was telling me the story earlier in the spring, and they built some, I don't know if you know what strapping is, but it's about the cheapest lumber that you can get at the lumber yard. They came in the spring with this strapping and some plastic, and they built some plastic shelters like the ones you would see on YouTube. These bushcraft people, I built a shelter for $20. Well, that's what these guys did. They came up here, and this is how the story goes. And this is what I don't want to happen for you. So, not saying it will, but this is a funny story anyways. But these young people came up, I don't know how many it was, but they came up here from away, and they're going to move into Northern Maine, and they're going to make their living foraging off the land. Well, right there by itself, they've already failed. They've already failed. You are not going to come up to Northern Maine and forage off the land and think you're going to make it. Period. We don't have to go any further than that. It's not going to happen. You, in this Northern Maine, you need to make your living between Memorial Day weekend and first snow. That's it. Once it starts to snow up here, you are not going to make a living out in the woods. Period. You know, forage. I don't know what they think they're gonna forage. There's, you know, we got some edible food up here, but it only grows in the summertime. You know, there's nothing out there right now unless you've got a gun or unless you've got a few traps. You're going to have to be a meat eater if you're going to forage here in the state of Maine in the wintertime. But anyways, getting back to my funny story. So they built them shelters, just like I've seen on YouTube, people building shelters out of plastic and sticks. And they built two of them, and then they rented. Up here you can buy a building to rent, like a little shed. So they got a shed in between the two plastic buildings that they built, and this was early spring. So anyways, they start their foraging plan, and I guess it didn't go very well because, you know, like I said, unless you can eat a tree up here or survive on grass, there's not a whole lot of munchies up here. Oh my goodness. Have a coffee. I took a bite of cooking. I've got two reasons you should subscribe to this channel. The first one is if you've clicked on one of my thumbnails. The second one is this channel is all about the great outdoors, the state of Maine. Everything that I do here at the Rustic off-grid cabin. So anyways, their foraging plan is going downhill fast in the springtime. So they went knocking and door to door, knocking on doors, and there's not a whole lot of doors to knock on. I know from this guy to where they live is probably 3 miles of dirt road between him and them. So anyways, they go knocking on the two doors, and actually it was the two camps that I built. I built two camps over there. The people, they live there full time now. I built them almost 10 years ago. But anyways, they lived there full time. So anyways, they went knocking door to door and said, asking if they had any projects they would be willing to work for some money because they want to buy some food. Well, these guys are pretty well set up. You know, it's been 10 years since they've been since I built them cabins, so their lifestyle is pretty comfortable now. So not a whole lot of projects that you want to hire out. So these guys that come up here to forage, it wasn't too long after that they were going door to door, knocking on the door, and are willing to work for food. So like I said, their foraging plan is not going very well. So I know I'm in the middle of this story, but this is why I'm tying this in with some skills. Don't come up here and think that you're going to build a bushcraft shelter and you're going to make a living out in the woods. You're just not. If you see the buildings that I build buildings. They might be small, but a bushcraft shelter is not a shelter to live in, period, that you see on YouTube. Bushcraft shelters make great videos, and people on YouTube love to watch them be built. But as a woodsman of 50 years, I don't build any bushcraft shelters. I am going to spend the night if I need to. It's not going to be in a bushcraft shelter. It's going to be in a shelter hugging a wood fire. If you watch my videos, there's more in there on how to build a fire than build a shelter, because I disagree with building a shelter, and we'll get into that in other videos. But I just, I hate to knock other videos on YouTube, but all these videos that are giving people like these foragers false hope that they can watch these videos, they can come to Northern Maine or whatever part of the country that they're in, and they can go out, they can build this cheap, no good for nothing shelter, and they're going to survive the winter. It's not going to happen. Same thing in these cabins. If you come up here with no skills at all, and you think you're going to build these cabins, and then you're going to live here and live happily ever after, you've got a really rough road ahead of you. You have one step up from the foragers because you've taken the time to actually build a shelter. Like the Beaver Creek shelter I just built. Beaver Creek Deer Camp. That's a small building, but it's solid, it's durable, it's heatable. You don't get that in a bushcraft shelter, period. Especially if you're going to go there and live. I could go to Beaver Creek and live because I can be warm any part of the day that I want to be warm in. I can get dried out. I can cook. I can do everything in that shelter that you can't do in a bushcraft shelter. Especially these foragers that come up here. I mean, what videos were they watching, or what fool told them that you can do this? I know of any other word easier to say than that. Is what fool told them that they could come to the state of Maine and forage out of the woods and survive the winter? We haven't even got into winter yet. By March up here, there's 6 to 7 feet of snow in the woods. Are you kidding me? You think you're going to come up here and forage and make a living? You watch too many YouTube videos. That's all I can say. Those videos are coming from people that hardly leave the hot top. Same thing with building cabins. Some of these guys out there really know what they're talking about. Some of them are just doing it for whatever. But sift through the garbage and try to find the videos and try to find the people that actually have done it, succeeded at it, and are still doing it on a regular basis. Not a weekend warrior that just runs out in the woods, throws up a plastic shelter, and says, I'm going to live here. Because they're not going to live there. Like these people that came in the spring. Before winter even got here, they were starving pilgrims. What in the world are they going to do in the wintertime when there is no food out in the back 40? Period. I mean, they didn't even have firewood. You know, they were asking questions on where to get firewood, how to cut firewood, what, you know, and they're going to cut little green wood and think that they're going to be, you don't. You don't. So that's why I want to do this video this morning about skills and having a guide for that. And we kind of brought in a whole bunch of stuff here, but learn your skills, bring them to the woods, and then succeed at it. And the same thing with your cabin. If you want to come up here and you want to build a cabin, take some time to learn some skills ahead of time so that you can take care of yourself. Because the mentality of, I've got a guy for that, doesn't exist here. Everybody up here is working their heinies off to make a living themselves. They might have a little bit of time to help you, but they don't have a lot of time because winter comes fast up here, and you need to plan ahead and make sure that you are ready for winter. And if you're building a cabin, your first year is going to be the roughest year. So if you can get through that first year, you're golden. You've got to get your cabin built. You've got to get a small woodshed built. And you've got to get that woodshed topped off with seasoned firewood, unless you are going to put in a propane furnace or whatever. But up here, I can't imagine owning a cabin without a wood stove because of the temperatures, and there's so much wood that I'll never burn the wood that's on my property in my lifetime. So it falls down faster than I can burn it. So I hope this video wasn't a big mess as far as being all over the place, but I want everyone to succeed in their dream of living the dream of owning a cabin. And these people, the foragers that came up, I just believe that they were led wrong way before they ever landed in the state of Maine. So I'll see you next week, and thank you for coming along.